It was a shock on January 26th to hear the president announce his what I think he's calling a pause, but what the industry is calling a ban on LNG exports to non-free trade agreement countries. Mr. Crabtree, how many free trade agreement countries exist?
I don't remember the exact number. I'd have to go back and check, but
14.
80% of the natural gas market is non-free trade agreement countries.
Has 80%?
Yes.
Is non-free trade agreement countries?
Correct.
Okay, so we have 14 free trade agreement countries that comprises 20%.
That's correct. Korea is the large market that is a free trade country with respect to natural gas.
Okay, so DOE undertaking steps and the usual process in accordance with DOE's past practice to update the analyses that DOE has long determined are necessary to make a reliable assessment of the public interest. How many BCF was promised, BCF a day, BCF a year, any metric you want, was promised to Europe by President Biden about a year ago?
The agreement with the EU promised 15 billion cubic meters. So
all of those to free trade agreement countries?
No, that was to the European Union, which is collectively the world's largest natural gas market.
All of those free trade agreement countries?
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're non-free trade agreement.
Exactly the point. So was it determined at that point in time that they were in the public interest? Did the president making that statement, promising that amount to the EU, to non-free trade agreement countries?
Based on regulatory decisions made in previous administrations and this one, plus efforts to make sure that cargoes got to Europe that were actually committed cargoes to East Asia, we were able to not only meet that commitment, but succeeded substantially. So
I want to know why DOE is not following precedent to consider the LNG export authorization applications while updating the study. Why are you deviating from
we are following precedent. I just got done explaining in response to the chairman's questions that the chairwoman's questions, ranking member's questions, that we updated in 2012. There were 15 applications pending to non-free trade area countries, and the decisions on those applications were deferred until the economic analysis was updated. Public comments were incorporated. That process was completed in 2013, after which...
How many current projects are in works that don't have approval, that need the approval, that would meet the requirement and meet the demand and meet the supply that was promised by the president to the EU or other non-FTA?
I can get you the specific number of projects, but the volume of exports beyond what's operating, the capacity is 12 billion cubic feet under construction, and 22 billion cubic feet have been authorized but do not yet have FID, if that's your question.
No, the question really is, why is it taking longer? Why are you not following precedent when this pause has happened? And yet the president stated previously in statements like he made about the EU and the promise that we were going to send a certain volume over there, why now are we pausing it?
Well, we met that commitment and exceeded it, sir.
But this is not happening.
By a large measure.
You met it on that day, but for the future commitments that we have, for the future contracts that we have,
we have capacity nearly equivalent to our current entire export capacity is coming online in the next 6 years, nearly a doubling.
Mr. Crabtree, I'll reclaim my time. Thank you for that. The fact is that there are many countries right now that are looking for LNG and are looking for contracts. Are they asking you for one-year contracts, two-year contracts? Well, what's a typical contract look like, a request from a country that we're dealing with?
Contracts vary, but the United States LNG sector is financed liquefaction terminals based on long-term contracts. Long-term. Most companies have a small percentage
15,
of short-term.
20 years?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So the decision to pause, I call it a ban because I think industry agrees with that. The decision to ban LNG exports starting on January 26th, has industry received that positively? Have you had discussions with industry, and which companies have you talked to since then?
It depends on which energy sector you're referring to. We have domestic manufacturers and industrial companies that are actually concerned about committing even more than 48 billion cubic feet of our domestic natural gas supply to export. And so we have heard from them that they think this is prudent.
Prior to January 26, which companies did you personally deal with to make this decision?
I have met with many companies.
Can you give me a list? Can you tell me 4 of them right now?
Well, I've met with all the major LNG producers.
I understand. Just tell me 3 or 4.
Well, aren't that many.
Just name them.
I have met with all of the major companies that operate liquefaction terminals, most of the major natural gas producers.
Can you name 3 or 4 of them?
Well, they're well known. There's only
That's what, it should be easy, right? So just name 3 of them. Name 2 of them.
well, there's
Mr. Crabtree.
I mean, are
You're
you asking
in the
me to
Department of
provide
Energy.
you with
This
a
is-
list?
No, I'm asking you right now, just name 1 of them.
Well, no, Cheniere is an example.
Okay, so you met with Cheniere prior to January 26th.
I have been
Did
meeting
they-
with
were
these
they in
companies since
agreement?
the day I was confirmed, sir.
Were they in agreement with the administration's decision? Was Cheniere in agreement with the administration's decision?
The LNG companies are concerned about the decision.
Very concerned about the decision. We finally got somewhere. I'll yield back.
Chair, I recognize